The way we lead impacts the way people live. This world needs, truly, human leadership.
We need to create impact by helping the humans in the workplace. There's a big problem in the world where humans are being told to keep their human side outside of the workplace. And what we're seeing is they're longing for it. And that actually leads to better performance, better results, better business outcomes.
I'm Brent Stewart, your host. Thanks for listening. This podcast is an outreach of Barry-Wehmiller. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Barry-Wehmiller, and find our podcast articles and videos at trulyhumanleadership.com. We told you in the last episode about the new, revised, and expanded edition of our CEO Bob Chapman's book, Everybody Matters, The Extraordinary Power of Caring for Your People Like Family, which will be out October 21st, and you can learn more about it at everybodymattersbook.com. If you read the original version, you know it's a story of transformation. It's about a leader who realized there was a better way to lead that was different than everything he was taught and thought he was supposed to do, and how his company changed because of those realizations, and why other companies should change as well. On our podcast today, we have a fantastic discussion with a leader who has also had a dramatic transformation experience. Mohammad Anwar is the CEO of Softway, a people-first consulting firm that helps evolving organizations truly transform in areas of technology, communication, and culture. Mohammad and Softway's story was chronicled in their first book, Love as a Business Strategy, and the recently released book, Love as a Change Strategy, details Softway's further learnings. You can find out more about Softway at softway.com, and the books have their own sites, loveasabusinessstrategy.com and loveasachangestrategy.com. On this episode, we talk to Mohammad about his leadership journey. We talk about his amazing transformation and how Softway transformed. We talk about what it means to be a human-centered technology company. And we talk about why Mohammad thinks AI can help humans get back in touch with their humanity. And we're going to start things off with Mohammad talking about Softway and all the things that they actually do.
So Softway has gone through plenty of evolution, and that's partially a lot of our books are born out of Softway's journey. But just to describe who Softway is today, Softway is a people-first consulting firm in the business of transformation the human way. So we come in and help organizations transform technologically, organizationally, or any kind of change that they're going through and they're transforming for, particularly like growth, M&As, reorgs, instituting new technology like AI and so forth. So we come in and do a people-first approach to how you transform your business while keeping people at the center of it. How can we transform versus the alternate approaches are tech-first approach, and then people are considered last. Or M&As are done with like the financial bottom line, and then the people are like the part of the, okay, now figure out what to do with all the people, right? So we say bring that to the forefront. You start with people first and then figure out how other things come together and you have higher chances of success to reach your goals, is the approach. So transforming the human way is what we do.
Well, give me a little case study. You don't have to name a client or anything, but maybe give me an example of some of the work you've done with a specific client.
Yeah, so we have clients where we're instituting AI, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And, with AI today, there's a big narrative that AI is here for people's jobs, right? And unfortunately, a lot of organizations and consulting firms lead with that. Like it's a cost containment strategy. It's a people replacement strategy. And that's what they lead with, right? And so there's a narrative built around, for most people's concern is like, hey, AI is here for our jobs. So there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear and anxiety with AI coming to the workplace. So when organizations try to institute AI, invest millions of dollars to bring AI to their organization, and they tell people, hey, adopt AI because it's going to help us improve, people are like, really? You think am I going to trust that? And then there's a lot of fear. So what happens is a lot of resistance comes in. and people will unknowingly or knowingly not adopt or even sabotage those transformation efforts. And so what we do is we come in and help the leaders of the businesses try to look at AI not as a people replacement strategy, but as a strategy to bring humanity back to the workplace. And how do we do that? We help them appreciate AI from a humane first approach, which we branded a framework called Humane, spelled HUMAIN for marketing purposes. But the philosophy is we will come in and help enhance the human elements that are needed in the times of AI, which is if you look at the workplace today, we are inundated with mundane tasks that have made us transactional. Half the time we're busy looking at emails and sending out reports that keeps us from being human. If you look at the number one reason why managers can't have one-on-ones with their teammates is because they're too busy. Busy doing what? Doing transactional work. And it has actually taken humanity away. And we believe AI can actually restore humanity in the workplace. And the strategy for that is identify all of the things that the humans are wasting their time doing transactional work, replace it with AI, and then help unlearn and relearn new ways of working for the humans in the workplace to leverage AI, but then enhance their human skills of communication, articulation, collaboration, co-creation, and even getting through conflict together as humans. And let's create a genuine human connection between the humans of the workplace, which are the biggest assets of the workplace, so that they can do the work that's most meaningful, which is innovation, right? Let's go innovate. Let's go invent. Let's go relate. Let's focus on relationships so we can get more sales, so we can get more revenue, so we can understand our customers, so we can practice empathy towards our users. And that's where the human work is most valuable. So if we build a strategic pathway for AI transformation that way, then people are going to be more willing to embrace AI because it makes them more human again. So we helped several customers with that type of a strategy and approach.
Softway wasn't always a human-centered company. Tell me a little bit about the Softway story. I know you founded the organization, and tell me how you got from where you started to where you are today.
I started the company when I was 20 years old as a technology firm, straight out of my college dorm, and when I was pursuing my computer science degree at the University of Houston. And within 10 years of starting the company, I hit tremendous amount of success, at least for someone who was like barely 30 years old. I had over 300 employees, and I was flying planes across Texas and driving my fancy cars. And you could say I was living the American dream, you know? But then all of a sudden, 2015, 2016, it wasn't working. My company was on the verge of bankruptcy, and I was just hemorrhaging cash and losing employees left and right. And I had to deeply introspect and come to the conclusion that it was actually all my fault. It wasn't the market, it wasn't our customers, it wasn't our team, it was me. I had become incredibly selfish, I had become greedy, and I got power drunk, and it was my way or the highway. So I showed up with a sense of arrogance and like a dictator. And that pretty much destroyed the culture of the company, and people didn't put their heart into the work, and it just became transactional work. So they just did the bare minimum. They did it for a paycheck, and our clients felt it. So clients started firing us for poor quality work, and I just kept losing contracts one after the other. And fortunately, um, after the layoff, I had to go through layoffs as well, and that was really, really hard for me. Um, I happened to go to a football game for my alma mater, U of H, 2 weeks after my layoffs, where I was very introspective. But at the same time, I wanted a distraction. So I go to this football game to distract myself from all of the stress of the world and the work. And I witnessed a miraculous comeback victory for my team. They erased a 20-point deficit in the fourth quarter. And having witnessed that, comeback victory, I started to see Softway through the eyes of the Houston Cougar football team and envision our own fourth quarter financial comeback. And so I was ready to go back and not give up because we were very close to shutting down. And that Monday, when I went back into work, I logged on to Facebook Live to see then rookie head coach Tom Herman speak to the press. And one of the reporters asked him what had led to the resiliency and comeback victory. And he said it was love. And my mind's like exploding. And I'm like, what? What does that even mean? And he began to expand and say, it's not the love you dog, love you broke kind of love, but it's the genuine love when you hold the other person's heart in your hand kind of love. That's the kind of love that helps you win games like Saturday night. But it's also that culture of love that our team has that helps us become championship level teams because the players go on the field not to fight for themselves, but fight for their teammates next to them. And when you have that kind of a culture, you're unstoppable. And as you were saying all of this, I was asking myself, do I love my team? Do I care for my team? And the resounding answer was no. So in that moment, I committed to go on a journey to transform myself by striving to become an empathetic, trusting, and vulnerable leader and put the people's needs before my own and create a circle of safety where people are empowered to learn, grow, make mistakes, and forgive one another, thereby creating an environment of resilience and belonging. And I'm still on this journey, but as a result of this journey, we went from barely surviving to thriving. And, we were back up in it. We tripled our revenue. We improved our EBITDA margins by 43 percentage points. Our clients started to retain us. And we were like growing and blooming again. And the next thing you know, our largest customer at the time was like, hey, we love hanging out with your team more than we do with our own team. And they're a Fortune 5 conservative firm in Texas. So you can figure out who they are. But at that point in time, we were like, we're a tech company. We can't help you with culture and leadership. What do you, no, that's not what we do. We're flattered, but no. And then a couple of weeks later, they came back and said, look, we really think you're the partner for us because we've gone to the big four consulting firms and, our leaders come back with t-shirts and coffee mugs, but they don't ever change. We really think you can help. And besides, we're willing to pay you. And then we were like, okay, speak less. You got to figure it out. We'll do this. We'll figure it out. So that led to a pilot where we set up our first ever leadership experience, where we spoke about how to lead with love. And that pilot became a super successful pilot from the eyes of the client, not because it was really good, but because we made a big blunder in the pilot and they saw us own up to it, apologize, and fix it. And the team sprung into action instead of blaming and finger pointing. And they said, that's it. That's what we want in our walls. It wasn't that your content wasn't good, but it was your team demonstrated exactly what we want to see in our team when there's times of change, uncertainty, and like problems that you all support each other and not blame each other. And so that fantastic failure led us to giving birth to us offering culture services for one of the largest company on the planet, where they sent us to 10 different countries to train 1,400 leaders across 46 different nationalities. And all we did was speak about how you can lead with love. And when we saw the resounding response to it, we realized, oh, wait a minute, we found our purpose and calling. We exist in this world to bring humanity back to the workplace through love. And that's kind of what gave birth to Love as a Business Strategy, which is our first book. And that became a Wall Street Journal bestseller. And the next thing you know, we're traveling the globe, helping companies, organizations, large and small, as long as they have humans, we've been able to help. And now it gave birth to our second book, Love as a Change Strategy. So today we help organizations transform the human way from a place of love.
Our CEO, Bob Chapman, tells a similar story to yours at the football game. He was visiting with a high school football coach named Steve Jones, who's one of the winningest coaches in Wisconsin state football history. And Bob asked Steve what he taught the players about winning and losing. And he said, well, we don't teach them about winning and losing. We teach them to play their position well for the other. And he said,
Mm.
it's amazing what someone will do for another person when they feel like they're cared for, when they feel like they care for one another. And it's funny that that was part of the inspiration for your transformation too. Tell me a little bit more about that time of introspection, because that had to be, you talk about change strategies and change management, which you guys deal with a
Yeah.
lot, and you deal with roadblocks. But for you in that moment, it had to be a tremendous amount of change.
Mhm.
How did that happen internally for you to go through these realizations and realize what you needed to do?
Change management terminology, right? There was a burning platform for me, which was that the business was about to shut down, and that was essentially my livelihood, right? I mean, that's all I knew was how to run my business. Of course, I didn't run it very well up until that point in time, but that was all I had, and that was my identity. And when I was at the risk of losing it all, it created this environment where I was forced to look within and see if I had anything to do with it. But also, fortunately for me, I was surrounded by team members who had the courage to come and speak the truth to power. And I think that was crucial. That was the biggest element of my transformation. Yes, the football game helped catalyze what it means to lead with love, but the actual journey of transformation, I would have to attribute my team for giving them kudos to not just speak truth to power and give me the feedback, hard feedback, difficult feedback, more difficult for them, right? To practice and giving feedback. Um, that was a crucial point in my self-awareness journey because let's admit it, I thought I was the greatest CEO alive until that point in time. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I was an amazing CEO because I had successfully, got a company to grow so much at such a young age, and I just had blind spots, and I needed someone to help me expose those blind spots. And plenty of times, teammates in organization that we consult with are afraid to tell feedback, especially to their bosses. And so that was one crucial element. And then second was, again, I attribute the team. A lot of them had a very good opportunity to jump ship because, we had just laid off people. The writing was on the wall, and they could have jumped into other agencies or other tech companies, but they chose to stand beside me and sacrifice for software and for one another and do the hard work that was necessary, which was messy because we didn't know how to get out of this. All we knew was that we needed to support one another, no matter how hard the times were. So I saw our team do things that I never expected. A lot of them took pay cuts voluntarily, which I know is something that I find inspirational from Bob Chapman's story as well.
Mm.
And our team decided to take pay cuts. They would go up to our controller on their own and say, "Hey, just don't pay me the next two paychecks. I don't want like pay someone else who needs it more." Um, Down to not a single reimbursement was filed by any of our team members for a period of like 8 to 12 months in that time. They had every option to come and claim receipts for reimbursements or whatever, travel or meals or whatever, and they would choose to just not do it. Um, Down to just supporting one another and helping one another, and all of that helped the transformation come through. So I attribute a lot of it to the people of Softway. Sure, I was at the helm of it, but I don't think I'd be on this journey if it wasn't for those team members who were willing to commit to go through the hard work and see us come through this on the other side.
What do you think inspired that loyalty within them when maybe at times you hadn't necessarily been loyal to them?
I can't speak too much for them, but what they did share, number one, I think the most important thing was that they cared for one another too much so that they didn't want to
Mm.
see them break their bonds and their relationships with their peers
Mm.
and their teammates, right? Like they cared too much for one another, despite me being, in fact, I think my rough dictatorship style may have attributed for them supporting one another because they all had to band together to deal with me,
Yeah.
to put up with me, and they found ways to support each other to get through a work day when I would show up at times and I was not easy to be around. And I think they developed this support system for one another to be able to collectively handle what I would bring to the table. I believe that's at least one factor.
Mm.
But they're just all with good humans to begin with. And so that was one. Then the second thing was, I think once I started to realize that I am the problem, I had to practice courage and I began to take ownership and I began to be vulnerable and apologize and seek help. And they said that that was the turning point when they saw me um, take ownership and apologize. And even literally say, "Hey, if you don't help me, who's going to help me?" Like I was that like in need of help. And when they saw me ask for help, they were like, "Okay." And, that was the turning point where they thought, "Okay, Muhammad's serious. We need to help him out," and that helped them commit to the journey versus depart. And a lot of the times, I think I was lucky that I had that realization, but leaders may not, it's not easy for them to apologize or take ownership. And I think that was a good turning point for them.
You were in these financial straits. You were going through all this stuff personally. Your team was trying to help you along. How long did that transformation take, and what did kind of those steps look like along the way? They were trying to be radically honest with you, and you were trying to take accountability. But how did that kind of roll out?
Yeah, and I will tell you, it was messy. I would take like five good steps, and then I would still do the wrong thing, and I'd erase all the five steps that I did good with one wrong, because they even coined it. They're like, "Oh, well, Mo's having a moment," so I would have moments. Like I'm human at the end of the day, but I think what was important was that even when I had those moments, my self-awareness started to kick in. And I was able to say, "Hey, you know what? I know what I just did there was uncalled for. I need to do better. I need to, I can't show up on this. I need to get better and better." So my frequency of the moments started to reduce over time. And I think that helped the team stay on me, to hold me
Mm.
accountable, to call what it was, right? And hold me accountable to how I behaved and so forth. So it was a long progress, a long process even. And I would say, I think the moment of that I would say when I felt like, okay, I made progress was when our clients came to us and said, "Hey, we've seen your transformation inside out. We'd like what you have." Is when I was like, "Wait a minute. It looks like where I was like 2, 3 years ago to where we are today is appealing our customers. And so we must have done something." I tried to stay humble through it, and I still try to stay humble through it because it's been a journey. But I think once we started to see outside of our walls, appreciating what we had created, appreciating how we showed up. In fact, what that customer told us was that we didn't even know Muhammad was your CEO, because he would show up to meetings and your teammates behaved exactly how they were behaving before he got in here. So we didn't even think he was your CEO. Whereas if it was our company and one of our boss, not even the CEO, like the immediate boss showed up, our behaviors would change. And that was the testament that, okay, I think we have transformed to a
Yeah.
place where they feel safe even around me.
Tell me a little bit about how Softway transformed, maybe shifted their focus from just being just a regular old tech consulting company to a human-centered tech consulting company. Tell me how that shift came about. I'm sure it was part of your transformation as well, but in terms of your business and what you did in your business, how did that change?
obviously when the customer came and said, "Hey, we'll pay you. Can you help us?" It was the genesis of culture services, right? And remember, we're not culture at that point in time. We're not culture experts. We're not academics. We're not even in the space at all. So I would say number one, it was purely by demand.
Mm.
It was very flattering that a customer would say, "We trust you to do something we've never seen you do." So they're empowering us, an unproven vendor, an unproven partner, and these clients or stakeholders are putting their reputation on the line for us to come and provide a service to them. So that was the genesis. And as we started to serve our customer in this regard, like it really hit me that up until that point in time, it's not that I'm not a technologist or what is it, an evangelist for technology or
Hmm.
anything like that. I really did not have a purpose until that point in time. I felt like I was a rudderless boat or ship sailing wherever the money was calling us for. Like it was all about the money. It was like if you asked me when I was 20 years old, why are you starting your business? I'm like, of course, to become a millionaire. You know, why not? And that was my purpose. I thought that was my purpose. That was my goal, and that was my immaturity. But once I traveled the world and I saw these humans across all facets of life, um, really hone in on the universal aspect of love and how we treat one another from a human perspective, it really spurred this thing inside of me like, this is purpose. This is impact. We need to create impact by helping the humans in the workplace. There's a big problem in the world where humans are being told to keep their human side outside of the workplace. And what we're seeing is they're longing for it. And that actually leads to better performance, better results, better business outcomes. And that like, hit me and I was like, this is it. This is our purpose. Everything we do should be to help bring humanity back to the workplace through love, and that can still be aligned to the technology work we do. How do we implement technology solutions by keeping people in the center of it? Or how do we institute culture, people center? How do we institute business strategy while people are at the center of it? And then how do we institute change while people are at the center of it? So everything was focused on the humans and everything else becomes secondary. And what we saw is the more and more we started to do that in our own company and for customers, we saw tremendous success in business results even for our customers, for ourselves. And that's a strategy that's very less used. So that's kind of what helped us transform. So we really haven't gone away from our technology roots. All we've recognized is that the technology can be even more effective and have far more ROI impact if we can just focus on people first. And that's what like made us so focused on this work.
When it comes to the work that you guys do, talking about being a human first technology company almost seems like a foreign description of a technology
Yes.
company, right? So why do so many organizations forget about people or don't think about people when they're trying to implement these tools or when they're trying to put these technological systems in place?
I think it boils down to a concept where we talk about comfort. And what happens is dealing with people is messy. It's not easy. And what has happened over the course of the workplace over the decades and years is that we have been drawn to process and technology to band-aid people issues and people problems because we seek comfort. It is hard to go tell the truth. Like if I have to speak honestly to you, Brent, from a place of love about your performance, about how you're doing your work, right? It takes a lot of courage and discomfort. And so us as humans innately dislike discomfort. So we don't want to go give feedback that's harsh. That's the truth, right? And we're not even telling you to be harsh. We're telling you to do it in loving ways. And we say love actually helps you hold people accountable, give them the feedback they deserve, and help coach them and mentor them from a innate desire to make them better versions of themselves. And what has happened is we have tried to um, compensate for that skill with process and technology, right? So we're like, you know what? It's really hard to give feedback to someone. So let's just do 360 surveys. Let's just do a performance review, an anonymous survey. Let's just
Mhm.
let's just come up with metrics that we can measure against people through a process instead of telling them how it really is, right? So we figured out all these mechanisms to avoid the heat, to avoid the hard work that it is to be human and to relate with humans. We've even come up with processes of like the compliment sandwich. Go tell something nice and then something bad and then say something nice again, right? It's like we have all these mechanisms to make us comfortable to deal with interpersonal conflict and interpersonal issues, right? And so we've got into this mindset like, let's just use technology, let's use process because it's more efficient, but we forgot effectiveness in the process. And just because I check the box, do the things doesn't mean it's effective. It could be efficient, uh, you know, um, from the outside in, but is it truly effective? Not. What we believe is that honesty unlocks efficiency. Because if I can say the things that are being unsaid to my teammates from a place of love, it creates efficiency. And then empathy unlocks effectiveness. When I truly understand what my teammate is going through or where they're coming from, I can be effective in my decisions or directions in how we should operate. So honesty unlocks efficiency and empathy unlocks effectiveness. And that's the human to human ways of doing it. But because we're so uncomfortable doing it, we start to lead with technology, lead with process, and then people come last.
So you guys wrote your first book, Love is a Business Strategy, which tells your story, tells what that means, and then now you've got this second book, and it almost seems like maybe Love as a Change Strategy is a response to the work that you guys have been continually doing, and it was something that you guys thought, oh, we've had these experiences, we need to kind of write them down, this is what we're seeing out in organizations. Is that how the book came about?
It's a two-part process. It was number one, we continue to go on a journey of change at Softway, right? Because of external factors, internal reasons, business reasons, and so forth. And so we had our own learnings from within our own walls with how we were dealing with change. And we also saw the common problems with our customers. So a big chunk of the book is about how we had to go through a reorg structure. We had to do a reorg, which is a very common practice in corporations. But when we went through it and we tried to do it the way it's done regularly in the business world, we saw a lot of challenges with people and people feelings and people emotions because we were moving people's boxes, placing them in different departments, different positions. Some were getting promoted, some could get demoted, some like it was tough.
Mm.
And what we saw is that when we did not take the time to consider people and people's feelings and their emotions in these times of change, that there was huge amount of resistance to the change. And it wasn't because the change was bad. They all inherently believe that the change is actually good. Rationally, it is the right thing to do. But from a human perspective, it sucks. So when we started to recognize that and pay attention to the human conditions and feelings, it actually became the catalyst to adapt to the org structure change a lot faster and more effectively. And so we took that and we tried it with our customers, and we saw the same type of success. And that's when we're like, got it, we're onto something. We need to put this in a book, make a framework out of it. And there's so much change happening around the world right now. Rapid amounts of change is happening, and it's only getting more and more faster. How can we put something in our book that is a human first approach to change, because a lot of what exists out there are processes for change. There's a lot of change management process that people adopt to, but there's still data out there that says 78% of change initiatives fail, which means not working. So we saw an opportunity to show a human-centered approach to change and not just managing change, but leading change. Because it's the change strategy in itself. If you start with the people in mind, you have higher chances of adoption. So we still need to do change management, but we're saying, hey, start at the strategy layer, and then
Mhm.
you'll have better chance of adoption. So that's what
Yeah.
gave birth to this book.
Yeah, when Barry-Wehmiller started to adopt some lean processes in our businesses, it was not necessarily about reducing waste or reducing fat. It was about reducing frustration. And we wanted to turn using those processes on its head and not approach it from the aspect of cutting fat or reducing waste, but to give people a better work life. If they're being listened to
Mhm.
and they're voicing their frustrations, how can it not be good for the business for that to not be rolled into their workspace, how their workspace works, how what they're doing? Like that should be at the heart of it. And that sounds like what you guys are advocating there.
Yeah, and especially we're focusing on leaders because I'll tell you one of the things we've noticed in a lot of the world out there in the organization that we work with, leaders want change but don't want to change. And there's a whole saying out there like all of us want change but no one wants to change. And we see that exactly play out time and again in companies where leaders are like, I want this change, but they don't see themselves as a part of the change. And so that's why bringing it at the starting point itself in how you build change strategy starts with how you need to be the change if you want to see the people change. And for me, it's a personal awakening that I had was just to give you a little bit of context. I have a 10-year-old son. His name is Mohsin, and he was diagnosed with intellectual disability and autism when he was 3 years old. And I struggled a lot as a parent because I was grieving and loving at the same time. But what I noticed was that the world around him was not very friendly to him. I saw problems with the school district, moved him around 6 schools in 4 years. Healthcare system was not, they were not, you know, specialist to specialists, and they weren't advocating for my child. I had to advocate for him. And I was super, super frustrated with the world. And I wanted the world to change for my son. But it turns out that I was the first person that needed to change about what I thought of my son and how I embraced my son. Because I found myself being very frustrated with why was I given Mosin to me? What did I deserve to have a child like this? And my mindset was messed up. And I wanted change everybody to change around me, but I had to have a realization that actually Mohsin is here to teach me love because he is the most loving, innocent child that demonstrates unconditional love to the very same people who might disown him. And I was like I had to go through a solo trek and an introspective experience for me to realize, oh my gosh, Mohsin's actually here to teach me love,
Mm.
unconditional love, so that I may help the world learn to love each other. And he's my biggest teacher. And so it wasn't until I realized that if I wanted to see change around me, I needed to change first. And once I began to change my perspective of my son is now excelling in his academics, in his uh, independence, in his skills that doctors said he would never do, he's doing today.
Mm.
Teacher said he could never read, he's reading today. And I realized that I had to be the first one to change. And so the whole concept of love as a change strategy is change has to start with us if you want to see and lead change.
Having those kinds of powerful experiences are total game changers. And obviously, they've been that way in your life. But with a lot of leaders, they unfortunately don't have those personal experiences that lead them down the change road. Like the change is harder for them because there's not these big events in their life, or it's harder for them to recognize. I mean, you over the course of our conversation, you've described two very intimate personal things that have led you down a path of realization. When you guys are working with leaders like you were talking about, how are you able to get through those leaders to help them realize that they need to be part of the change as well, especially when they're usually so resistant?
So the reality is all of us have lived experiences and stories that could be pivotal for us to change our perspective. It's just having the self-awareness in the moment that that experience, that experience that I'm having is change worthy, right? And if you don't have the self-awareness, it could pass by in front of you and you won't even realize it and notice it. So how we help leaders recognize this is by number one, helping them build self-awareness. So and our approach to self-awareness is not like thou shalt become more self-aware, like like hold up a mirror in front of you and like force that type of self-awareness, but rather we do it from a place of empathy. So when me and my co-authors and our team, we do workshops and experiences for leaders, we only lead with our stories, our vulnerabilities, our mistakes, our mishaps. And believe it or not, they're being tricked into introspection. It is very difficult for them to not imagine, have I done that? Have I gone to that? Have I written a refrigerator email like Mohammed? Like, and so what happens is, I think this is the secret sauce that we've learned about ourselves, is that we don't go become preachy or even like consultant mindset, but rather we go from a place of empathy and we say, look, we're leaders just like you. We're going through the motions of the world and business just like you. We have the same challenges that you're facing, and here's what we've done and sucked at, and here's what we've done and it was the worst decision. I hope you sure as hell don't do that. And here's why. And that's it. And we connect with them empathetically. And I think we trick them into introspection. And then they realize, holy crap, I've done exactly what Muhammad did. And that's where we give them that awareness to where they may start going on their journey of commitment to change. So that becomes a catalyzing event for them.
When we were talking about layoffs earlier, you had said something about our company. How did you find out about Barry-Wehmiller, and how did you and Bob, and how did that come into your purview?
One of the videos by Simon Sinek, which was the most watched TEDx video, I think it was about when leaders eat last, or one of the most popular videos. He shared the story of Barry-Wehmiller, and he shared how in times of financial needs, how Bob Chapman was not willing to do what traditional businesses would do, which is cut the cost by laying off people, and instead he kind of opened it up, and how people on their own decided to you know uh, give up their leaves for the sake of others so that they may cut costs. But not only did it cut costs, it actually improved their revenue and performance. That video inspired me tremendously. And I actually had seen that video at the right time when I was going through my journey of introspection, where I was realizing how bad of a leader I was. And I had watched that video, and that really stuck with me. And it was one of the other inspiration for me to do right by the people. Um, and so I reached out to Bob. Eventually, I had the courage where I was like, oh man, this man has inspired me so much, and I don't even think he knows it. I think he deserves to know this. So another author by the book who wrote the book Joy Inc.
Rich Sheridan, yeah.
Yes. I shared the story with him, and he said, Mohammed, I know Barry, I know Bob Chapman. Let me introduce you. And that's how I got introduced. Yes, that's what happened.
Rich is a great guy. It's funny, between you guys and Rich and us, we have joy, love, and care. We've got
Yes.
all the emotional spectrums that we're covering in the world. Well, as we close up today, we kind of started off. You talked about the moment we are as a society right now in terms of technology and humanity. What is kind of your hope for the future? Because we really are at an inflection point with technology and humanity, and the use of technology and how that is used.
It's imperative that we don't look at technology or humanity as a either or type approach or a solution or strategy, but we have to look at it as a both and, right? We need AI just as much as we need humans. And if we can help bring about awareness to the business world, the corporate world, and leaders, particularly who are decision makers, that look, um, AI is actually a tool that can help humanity. And how we roll it out, how we create transformation experiences for our humans is going to be the strategy that makes it work or not work. And today, unfortunately, more and more stories are coming out of layoffs, cutting costs because of AI, right? And I think that's a very scary proposition for humans. And I think we're giving the wrong message. And my hope is that as we're a company with the vision of bringing humanity back to the workplace and also happens to provide technology services, we can show the world that you can do both. You can bring AI and actually help humans become more human again. I give the classic example just for another example so it relates. Like I go to doctors with my son all the time, plenty of doctor visits. And let me tell you, the doctor offices have become so transactional, and empathy has just been sucked out of the doctor's offices, where the doctors will sit in front of a computer, look at the reports, be entering their stuff into the EMR system, not even look eye to eye to a parent to tell them what's the prognosis for your child. And it is the most dehumanizing experience that me and my wife have had, is going into a specialist offices. I would argue that if we can institute AI the right way in a doctor's office, the doctor can ultimately, eye to eye, have an empathy-based conversation with the parents of my child, like us, and tell us face to face, eye to eye, human to human, what it is that we must expect. And I think AI can make that happen, right? And that's how I see AI bringing humanity back into the workplace and making us more human again, if instituted the right way. And that would be a dream for me if I could help my doctors just look me in the eye and tell me something that's really important for me by looking at me into the eye and telling me what I should expect of my son. That would be my dream, right? And I think AI can do that. So that's kind of my hope. And another example of how we can bring it back.
Thanks a lot for listening today. It was great to talk to Mohammad and hear his just amazing story of transformation. And again, you can learn more about Softway at softway.com. You can learn more about their books at loveasabusinessstrategy.com and loveasachangestrategy.com. And don't forget to find us and connect on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Barry-Wehmiller. And you can find more podcasts, articles, and videos at trulyhumanleadership.com. I'm Brent Stewart. Thanks for listening.